Hello and welcome to this third Career Mark Primary webinar. I'm Janet Hutchinson. I'm one of the partners of Complete Careers, and I am taking about 45 minutes or perhaps a little less to tell you more about how you can achieve the Career Mark Primary Award. And as I say, this is the third of a series of 3 webinars at the moment. So welcome, and I hope you find this useful. First of all, if anybody's watched the first one, this is a bit of a repeat, but I just wanted to briefly comment about what career education, information, advice and guidance actually is. So what is it you're trying to teach the young people and that we hope they will learn? There are 3 significant elements in career learning. The first is to learn about yourself. What sort of a person you are, what are your strengths, what are your skills, all that sort of thing. So that goes on in primary schools, I understand, all the time anyway, but we would link it as an element of career education. The second element of careers is finding out about jobs, if you like. And that's where a lot of people think that is only what careers is about, and it's not. That is one of only 3, if not more, elements. But that's, again, something to help learners, particularly when they're very young and depending on where they are living and their socioeconomic background, teaching them about the whole variety of jobs that might be open to them locally, nationally, is very important, because they may not have any idea of the wide range of jobs that are available. And the third element of career learning is, okay, I learned about me, or I know the sort of person I am. I've learned about different jobs and what you might need to do them. And then you need to learn about the pathways and the way to move yourself forward to ensure that you are able to reach the destination, if you like, of your choice, your dream job. Now, I do realise that when young people are 3, 10, 13, maybe even 23, they're still not entirely sure what their dream job is. But it's important, we think, to give them the skills, the knowledge and the attitude to be able to deal with the change and transition that education and work will bring to them. So it's the 3 elements, as I say, about career education. There's also the information, which can come in a variety of formats, and I will say a little bit more about that maybe later. It can be from people, it can be from books, it can be from observation, it can be through videos, all sorts of things. And then the advice and guidance doesn't really come into it quite so much when they're small. And well, I don't mean small, I mean young. But nevertheless, it is about helping them understand what are the options and how they might get there. So, for example, it's important that staff and parents, if possible, understand that yes, you can go to university when you're 18, but you can also do things like apprenticeships in a whole variety of jobs. So it's understanding the options and helping young people take ownership of their lives and move them in the direction that they want. So why start it early? Again, this is one of the things we think is very important. It helps them to develop a sense of who they are and maybe how they're different, unique from everybody else, but what it is about them that makes them special. Career learning can also help reduce stereotypes. I'm a fairly mature woman and I've seen quite a lot of changes with regard to gender, but there's still a lot of work to be done. If I go past a building site or some roadworks, there are rarely in this country still women doing the job. There's no reason why they shouldn't be, but they often aren't. Again, it's one of those things that takes time to change. Careers is also about enhancing your confidence and raising your self-esteem. What am I good at? What do I like doing? I might not be the brainiest person in the class, but I have my skills and qualities, and they will be very useful to me, and I need to develop them. Again, it can raise aspirations. Parents may have somewhat limited aspirations, and it's good to help the young people think outside the box. The world of work is changing, the way we work is changing. So in many ways, it's important to help them look at all the things that are out there and decide what they want to do. The other thing it might help you do is you do need qualifications very much these days often. So school is where you will get them most of the time. So it's about having a positive attitude towards their learning. This is going to take me where I want to go. And if they have a positive attitude towards learning and why they're doing things, then that will generally improve their attainment. And it will also hopefully give them broader horizons, maybe provide more cultural capital, etc., and help with social mobility. So, oops, sorry, left slide there. So what I'm looking at today is the third and fourth standards of the Career Mark Primary Award. The first webinar gave a general overview. The second webinar focused on standard 1 and 2. This will focus on standard 3 and 4, and sometime next year there will probably be a webinar on the assessment process. So there are 5 components to the award. Impact and management are 1 and 2, which I looked at in the last webinar. Today I'm looking at curriculum and staff training. And the final one, pupil outcome, is part of the assessment process when you feel you are ready to be assessed by an external career specialist, and they will come in and talk to your learners and your staff and check all the things that have been going on. Just in case you don't know who I am, a little bit more about us. We are part of Complete Careers. Our aim is to empower people to make successful transitions and fulfill their potential. And it's good to start that as young as possible. So standard 3 looks at the content and range of the careers curriculum. And one of the things that you may find very useful, and in fact was only released this year, 2021, was a comprehensive set of learning outcomes going all the way down to early years. So the Career Development Institute has provided a range of learning outcomes. And these can be very helpful to you to think, okay, what do our learners need to know? What is it that we should be teaching them. How are we going to do it? So that is something useful to have as a basis. And then deciding, okay, so we've looked at all that. What is the main focus of the content of our programme as we work through from early years through to key stage 2? And then there's also the element of thinking about what are the resources that we're going to have access to, and how are we going to use them to support lessons or learning or activities or visits or special events. And the final one there, oops, I think I've forgotten to have finished that PowerPoint slide. What is the contribution of external partners? So external partners. Anybody else, apart from people in the school who are working with you? There's a little picture of the handbook for primary schools. As I say, that came out in the summer. One of my partners, business partners, helped to write that. He is a careers guidance professional like myself and worked with the professionals to help come up with the learning outcomes and the support materials there. A career is about the whole of your journey, if you like, through life, learning and work. And it needs skills and knowledge and attitudes that can be developed. And that's what we are encouraging you to start doing from primary level. There are actually 6 elements in the newest framework from the CDI. They also have one for secondary, and there may eventually be a lifelong learning one. But there's the idea that you grow throughout life, but also that, as I say, you will have your own individual way of growing into the best you can be. There is also the idea that you find out about all the different possibilities that might be there. You also learn how to manage your career, making the most of those opportunities, but also learning how to cope with setbacks or barriers or disadvantages that might get in your way. Also, being aware of when you can take opportunities, building relationships with people, making contacts, finding out through people you already know and places you might already go that there are careers around those sort of things, and finding out how that might work for you. It's also now important to think about the balance of life and work. Do we want to spend all our lives working, or do we want to balance our work against the other things? Some of us find a job we love, so we will spend more time doing it. Some people find that they'd rather do a different approach, but it is about balance and then seeing the big picture. We are now a global economy in many ways. There was the old adage that you got on your bike and looked for work many years ago when I was young. These days, it's more about what can you find out about the world of work and the broader spectrum through the internet, through media of all different sorts. So what is the big picture? What you're looking to do is to come up with a scheme of work. And again, a good starting point is, what do your learners need? And I work across the country, even internationally, with young people from a huge variety of backgrounds and in a huge variety of schools, colleges, etc. And some of those young people have very different needs to others. So it's not possible to say these are the needs of all learners. it's possible to say, consider your context, consider your learners, and see what you can find out. When you've done that, also look at what other curriculum areas link careers. A lot of things in perhaps PSHE and citizenship will very closely link to career learning. Other subjects will also have learning that can be transferable or directly relevant to particular careers. So you need to look at the whole curriculum. Once you've done that, you need to identify the learning outcomes and fit them to activities and lessons. Excuse me. You will then also ideally be making sure that once you've got that program in place, you have systems to monitor the delivery and the outcomes. And ideally, the young people are keeping a record of what they're learning. And in this day and age, I would suggest that even from quite young, you encourage them to keep that record of learning in some form of ICT so that they can revisit, review, build on and change it without having lots of bits of paper they can lose as they go through the school. Now, what's your content and range? Again, these are the things we're looking to do. We want to raise aspirations, promote social mobility, and help them deal with transition and change. They will be changing classes probably every year. There will be other change going on. They may change from a primary to a junior school. They may come from a nursery to a primary. They will probably go from a junior to a secondary. All these are changes that we can help them develop the skills to cope with. And then as they get older, they will learn how to build and use those skills as they go perhaps into post-16 learning, post-18 learning, or jobs or whatever. So we're looking for them to get some knowledge and understanding of and the skills for the world of work. So knowing about it, but also doing some of the things and knowing that some of the things they do will be transferable. And again, we're looking at hard and soft employability skills. We also want, hopefully, to challenge stereotypical views of work and the workplace. And we want everybody, if possible, all teachers, and I am an ex-teacher myself, to try to link elements of their subject to the world of work and to the transferable skills that they are teaching. Because we won't all necessarily fall in love forever with languages or PE or whatever, but there will be elements of every subject that should help us to have a broader skill set, be better able to do a whole range of things, either inside or outside of work as they get older. There's the missing words from that slide, external partners. Maybe I copied and I cut and pasted instead of copied and pasted. And when you're thinking about external partners, I'm probably at the moment talking to teachers within a primary school. But there are more than teachers within a primary school. You will often have support staff, which may include people who run kitchens, people in an office, there may be site maintenance staff, there may be other people who come in part-time, temporarily, whatever. So you've got all those different people from different backgrounds doing different jobs, and they're all part of, if you like, your school community, and they can be a very valuable resource. External partners can also be other local primaries or secondaries and FE colleges or UTCs, technical colleges, studio schools. Again, it depends where you are. And of course, going on further and higher, you have a local university, do you have a regional big business, you know, whatever that does training providers or apprenticeships. These can be all part of your community that will work with you, maybe coming in real time and as a person in the classroom, or through remote meetings so that they can be doing that sort of thing. And also people visiting, or you taking your youngsters to visit other places of learning or work. And that also is where perhaps your local community comes in. What sort of a community have you got? What can they offer? Are there a lot of retired people who may have time and knowledge of what the world of work has done in the last few years? Are there lots of voluntary organisations? I don't know. You will know your local community. You've obviously got parents as well, maybe grandparents, maybe broader families. How can they help with this understanding and learning about the world of work? Some of these will obviously all overlap, but I've just tried to identify them. There's also businesses, companies, big ones, small ones, medium-sized ones, self-employed people, businesses that have actual physical premises, businesses that are run from home or online. Again, the variety is enormous, and it may depend on where you are as to the scope and range. But it is worth thinking about how you can link up with them and they can link up with you. And finally there, I've talked about a slightly different group, which is your governors, some of whom may be local and parents and business, but nevertheless, some may also be maybe local retired people, councillors, etc. You've also got parents who may be a very good resource, and although it may be difficult initially, trying to keep in touch with your pupils as they grow up and go through secondary onto higher education and get jobs of their own or set up businesses of their own. If you can keep them in touch with you, possibly through social media platforms or something like that, then they too can be a good external partner. Kids love to hear about people who used to be at their school. It doesn't have to be somebody rich and famous, though that's always very nice. But it needs to be, or could be, somebody who's making a good job of contributing through their work and life to the community somewhere. So that's the third standard, and what you do is you use all the elements and you put in place the lessons, and you then ensure that the program is being delivered. However, we are also very aware that teachers and support staff and all these other people may not have a lot of knowledge or training themselves. So how do you find out what your staff need in terms of training? CEIG, as I said, talks about careers education, providing information, and the ANG are advice and guidance. So how do you find out how much they know? A good starting point may be asking them or introducing them to that CDI learning framework, or looking at what the Careers and Enterprise Company have now put up on their website as primary resources. There are various places you can go. And if you want to find out more about primary, then we can potentially add you to our CareerMark primary newsletter, where we try and keep you up to date with what's happening. So think about that. What training and support do you need? Who's in charge? What do they know? Will class teachers feel comfortable? Can subject content contribute? Some subjects will be more obviously linked to careers than others. So how do you do that? And again, you can ask staff if they feel comfortable. You can ask them what they need to know. You can identify that through performance management and questionnaires and all sorts of ways. So again, may take a little time to make sure everybody's up to speed, but it's worth doing. It's maybe also important to make sure that your staff know about all the post-16 opportunities within your area. Do they understand these days about apprenticeships? Do they know what colleges are offering? Do they know what the big local employers are, or what most people do for a job if they go to work or if they're working from home? So again, there are lots of little elements that it may take a while to check out, and we, even to get the CareerMark Award, we're not looking for perfection, and often we find primary schools are already doing a lot of what we're requiring. It's about making sure everybody's involved, everybody's committed. So again, some of the steps you might take: audit their understanding and competence, using the school's performance management. Make sure you build in some staff insight about what we mean by careers. As I say, use the framework. Think about it's not just about getting a job, it's about employability skills, it's about transferable skills, it's about transition skills, it's about finding opportunities, learning to access opportunities, responding to things that are going on, making choices, etc. I mean, I always say when I'm talking to lower secondary schools, even they will say, well, why have we got to worry about careers? They're only 11. And I would say, as an ex-secondary teacher, well, the problem is if they don't do the best they can right from the beginning of their education, or as soon as they're competent to make that decision, then they are actually affecting their career chances. Because if they don't do their homework, if they don't meet their deadlines, then they are not building up the right sort of skills and attitude that will make them employable in the future and give them the greatest amount of opportunities. So think about what you might want them to do. See if they know about local employment. There are a range of resources about it that you can find things out. Earlier, when I spoke about Unit 1 and 2, I will have talked about monitoring, review and evaluation of the programme. It's important to use that to, again, check that staff are able to develop with the programme, feel empowered to do what they need to do, etc. And also the learners. It's fascinating that once they start getting involved, I go in now and talk to primary age kids, and they'll say things like, oh, we've learnt about lots of jobs, but there's hundreds more out there I don't know anything about. And that's really powerful because they realise that they have, if you like, a lot of work still to do to find out, but they know there's things they can go and find out, and hopefully you can give them the skills. So listen to the learners and what they want to do, and do they understand what is likely to work for them. Again, I would suggest starting off with some basic training using the framework and other resources is useful. How they link the things they do with learners from very early on to all the activities they undertake. When they go on a visit to somewhere, people don't always think of it as a place of work, but often it is. Also, the clothes you wear to do different things. You know, there are all sorts of things that even very young children will understand. So it's quite important that staff make links to all these things. There will also potentially be career hubs building up in your area. Now, initially, they may only be targeting secondary schools, but there are links you can make with local secondaries to find out what they're doing. And there may be external training that you can pick up more about careers from. And again, staff need to analyse what they're doing. What do they know? Is there things they'd like to know? Again, many of your staff may have partners or family who aren't teachers. So how much do they know about those other jobs? How much can they use that information to help them help the learners? So it's a whole community activity. And again, it's about keeping up to date. It's about keeping open minds. It's also about signposting and admitting, actually, I'm not sure about that. Can we find something out? Who would we ask? Where do we go? Is there a book? Is there a website? Is there a person? Who can help us? So the monitoring as well is to make sure things are actually happening. And you can do that sometimes by checking what the youngsters have learned. And again, tracking what they might want to be when they grow up. Does it change? Have they got an idea? Is it a sensible, well, when I say sensible idea, that it doesn't have to be a sensible idea, but do they know why they've got that idea? Is it a realistic one as they get older? And again, it was funny, I was again talking to some primary school teachers this week, and the early years teachers said, well, a lot of mine still want to grow up to be mermaids and princesses. And I said, well, that's fine. They can want to grow up to be mermaids and princesses. What would you need to be able to do to be a mermaid or a princess? And then maybe by the time they're in year 5 or 6, and I talk to 5 or 6, some of them will have much clearer ideas. They may want to be a professional sports person, or they may want to work with animals, or they may want to perform. And again, maybe they can't all do that in the end, but then some of them may. And again, a lot of them quite like the idea of being a teacher. Teachers make their life enjoyable. They want to do that for other young people when they're older. So thinking about what have you taught them and has it been learned so that it might help them do the things that will help them move forward. Again, why do I have to do this? Well, it might help you in the future if you want to do well, if you want to go to, if you want to become a. So that really is just talking about these 2 standards. So it's looking at the content and range of your curriculum, which should hopefully involve lots of people, both inside and outside of the school. And then checking that you're training your staff up. And it's not just the teaching staff, it's also your support staff and any other staff, because they too can help. And then this is just a little bit to tell you that the fifth standard that was flagged up earlier, in case you're wondering, is what the pupils learn. And the way we assess that and the way we find out about how successful a programme is, the school submits the documentation that tells us how they're doing the first 4 standards, which is managing the process in the first instance and looking at the impact the programme has. And then the 2 we've dealt with today. And then once an assessor is allocated, looks at that and the supporting evidence, they will say, yeah, I think you've got everything going well enough for us to come in and assess. It all looks good on paper. So let's talk to the learners. Let's hear what they've got to say about maybe jobs they do in the school, people who've come and talked to them, things they're learning about different careers. And when an assessment is carried out, it's a half day in the school. But when I say in the school, these days we tend to do it through remote platforms, whichever the school is used to using. Could be Teams, it could be Zoom, it could be Google Classrooms. So you do then get a recognised award, an award from a recognised licence awarding body, and we are looking at getting national recognition through the Quality and Career Standard for Career Mark Primary. It is often seen as being a good thing for Ofsted to have an award around careers, because you are helping the youngsters prepare for life in the future. Secondary schools, all secondary schools and colleges currently are strongly recommended to work towards the National Quality and Career Standard. Primary schools aren't at the moment, but more and more are taking it up. So could you be one of those, working with other primaries or with secondaries or on your own? Again, just to show you, you sign up as a member through our website. You then get access to support and guidance, mainly resources, but there is also training. You will, when you have an assessment, there is an independent careers expert. It's also about starting with a self-assessment. And if you're interested in doing that, the Careers and Enterprise company also has a small one. It's a 2-stage assessment process we do. So there is a, oops, I can't spell there, I've just noticed, portfolio assessment. So often electronic these days, you collect together your documentation. And then there is an assessment day, which is agreed and carried out. And when you're accredited, you get plaque and certificate, you get logos, and that lasts for 2 years. And then we have written you a report which says what we think is good, and also says, and what we think you might consider doing next is this or this or this. And 2 years down the line, we come back and we have a look to see if all the good stuff's still going on and how you've changed and developed it. Maybe by using our recommendations, you don't have to have them. They are there to help, but they are not essential. You're probably doing a lot already. Sorry, there's some pictures of primary schools. You probably have visitors in. You may well do things around STEM, which is obviously quite a big area of careers and one they encourage. You will have people doing all sorts of things, maybe helping the community, doing sport, learning about other things. So consider any visitors as careers resources, as well as whatever else they are. I've said a lot about it. These are 3 quotations that we have been provided with from schools who have got involved and done the award. An excellent means to broaden and deepen experiences for primary children. Within a matter of weeks through CareerMark, we witnessed a huge increase in the children's aspirations and hopes for their futures. I think that's brilliant. And that was a year 6 teacher. And then somebody says, learning about what courses they might take eventually at college or university in different careers. So there's some quotations from people who've done it. They're not made up, they are genuine. You will find some more information on our website. If you are interested, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to make that disappear quite so quickly. If you are interested, either contact us through our website or inquiries, or I would be happy to receive emails and questions if you are interested in finding out more or signing up. Thank you for your time, and I hope you will think about having a quality award in careers.